What's going on, everybody? Brett here, back with some more updates for Battle Brothers, the Warriors of the North DLC. My YouTube channel is, of course, Good Talk Gaming, and if you're joining me today, I hope you are as excited as I am. If you've never heard of Battle Brothers, consider checking it out on Steam. It's one of my favorite games right now, and I have a playthrough going of it. But every Friday, I've been looking forward to these dev blogs, which release new information about the upcoming content. So this week's is entitled The Barbarians. So we've been kind of waiting to see how they would frame the new enemy as they referenced. And, you know, I think Vikings is probably just to call them Vikings or Raiders would have been a bit too, I'd say lame. So, but the Barbarians, that sounds much cooler. And I haven't read through this very much, but just kind of looking at it, I think we're going to see an enemy type very similar to the orcs, which is kind of something I called in one of the previous videos. I think that's what we're going to get. So without any further ado, guys, let me start reading this for you. Like I said, I haven't read it myself, so you're going to get my first impressions. I hope you enjoy that too. So the upcoming Warriors of the North DLC will not just bring more replayability and Nordic equipment, but also introduce an entirely new human faction to the game. They'll come with their own lore, armor, and weapons, enemy types, and fighting styles to pose a unique challenge to any mercenary commander. Let's delve in. I was also kind of hoping that they would have their own types of settlements as well. Like you could go up into their lands, and yes, you could fight them, but you could also perhaps take quests from them. That would have been pretty sweet, especially if you went with the kind of the raider backgrounds. But let's see, it says introduction. During the development of the Beast and Exploration DLC, we had this idea for groups of wildmen roaming the northern parts of the map. Essentially, they'd be a different flavor of bandits and use existing assets. Except maybe we could also squeeze in one new armor if we found the time, or maybe even two. And so we decided that if we wanted to do them, we do them right and dedicate the time necessary to give them equipment and mechanics of their own music, as well as contracts and events to convey their lore and the part they play in the world of Battle Brothers. So here we are with a Warriors of the North DLC in development. So these look like kind of the banners whenever you attack like any kind of location on the battle map. A lot of times you see the banners there representing different orc or goblin or undead or different types of tribes and enemies, and these look like the ones that may represent them on the battlefield. So this was like a shark bone. This looks like, some sort of bull type antlers, and then they're kind of some sort of like amber dangling from some weird skull fetish. So here we go. Some lore on these dudes. Many hundred years ago, in a different era, an empire of man spanned much of the known world. An empire, not of petty noble houses, but one of a dozen provinces, from the frozen tundra of the north to the blistering sands of the south. I kind of mentioned that would be sweet if they did some sort of like southern desert DLC as well. So, of a dozen peoples under one banner. As the empire spread further and further to the north, it became entangled in constant war with countless tribes of barbarians. Some were subjugated by force, some saw opportunity and swore allegiance, others faded into nothingness, but many more remained free, their constant raids and incursion a thorn in the side of the empire. The empire, as you may know, eventually crumbled under its own weight, and feudal houses emerged from the dust to rule the lands in its stead. See, in the game, we have our main character, without giving major spoilers, but definitely has visions of the empire and kind of a Roman-esque empire, and very fitting to history also that barbarians kind of tear them down. So yet in the very north, the free barbarian tribes remained free still. For them, their own tribe is the beginning and the end. It is bliss and life and death, for their family is holy to them, and they believe to sit with their ancestors if they meet their end in this life. They roam the harsh and infertile lands as they have been for hundreds of years. They raid to claim what they need, and they sacrifice their prisoners in bloody rituals to prove their worth to ancestors who ascended to be gods through the deeds and life. But they're not beasts, and they're not of alien minds like the greenskins. They're humans, and while they speak a different tongue, they can be reasoned with, and they know the concepts of honor and friendship and truce and bartering. What they have to do in order to survive in the unforgiving lands they inhabit. They follow their old ways to this day. They're the warriors of the north. Very cool. They kind of remind me of, G.R. Martin's Wildmen North of the Wall. So, fighting barbarians. The warriors of the North are ferocious fighters, but with scarce resources and a nomadic lifestyle. They usually don't have access to the level of equipment that other human factions do. Many of them wear armor crafted from pelts and furs, and while some do boast metal armor, not least because it is a matter of prestige, the harsh climate of the North often has taken a toll on it over the years. Some barbarians even forego armor altogether, and instead paint their bodies with magic runes to call upon their ancestors to protect them from harm. That's very cool. So when I was thinking about the different types of enemies there would be, um, and I kind of framed it very similarly to the orcs, the way the orcs have their young, um, which I'm kind of looking at this. Then they also have like their berserkers, the guys who paint themselves, cover themselves in bone armor. Um, you also have the warriors who are slightly more heavily armored, and then of course like the warlord level leader. So I think they'll end up being very similar. I love the idea of having magic runes. I wonder if that'll be something very similar to your brother's usage of Indomitable type of a trait, where it reduces actual damage done to the body by like 50% maybe, who knows? But that could make them very unique enemies. And I'm loving the look of the armor as well. Very cool. Kind of Conan the Barbarian-esque when I look at this one especially. So their weapons are likewise often crafted from wood and bone, some of the few materials readily available to them, or have been handed down through generations and so show signs of wear. Generally, all barbarian weapons have somewhat lower base damage values, but a higher percentage of damage that ignores armor than comparable weapons in the game. Interesting. Of course, all their armor and weapons are lootable and equipable by you too, and there will be named variants as well. So we can look forward to getting some pretty sweet, unique versions of these. So big axe. This looks like some sort of pole arm, certainly. Um, Although it may not be. It may be a spear. We'll see. Depends on how they end up fighting. We've got looks like a one-handed hammer. Perhaps this is a two-handed, like a war hammer. Maybe your cleaver type, sword type, who knows. But very cool. I love the aesthetic. So in combat, a barbarian warband doesn't bother with formations, and they have no backline with pole arms or dedicated archers. So if they don't have pole arms, then this to me must be like a spear. They are a horde of ferocious warriors in a constant shuffle of everyone trying to bring their weapons to bear against the enemy. They'll shower you with throwing weapons. Interesting. They run towards your line, and they make ample use of the adrenaline perk to overwhelm you before you can even strike back. That is interesting. So for those of you who don't know, adrenaline lets you act first in any given combat. Um, so they might, run in, combat starts, they attack once, pop adrenaline, and then they get to go first next round. So they get like guaranteed hits. That could be pretty scary. And if they actually have the perk Overwhelm, then they'll be able to apply guaranteed overwhelm to you, which will probably mitigate the fact that they'll have really poor defensive stats with kind of crappy armor. So nice kind of 1-2 punch here. Adrenaline, if they do have overwhelm, and then of course they'll have high initiative anyway because they will be wearing what I assume is going to be pretty light armor. So they don't fear death the same as other humans do, so they are not easy to break, and getting hurt will only further incite their barbarian wrath. Wow, that's pretty cool. So, in the way that in a recent video I killed like 31 orcs in a battle, pretty decent sized war band. And one of the ways to beat them is to kill like the first 20 as fast as possible, and the last 10 generally break off. Also, my build in particular in my current playthrough really focuses on causing injuries and using those injuries to trigger penalties and to increase my own damage. But if causing those injuries makes them do increased damage, for instance, which is kind of how I'm reading that, that could be pretty scary, and that kind of flips my build on its head. So because a barbarian warband is but a loose collection of individuals, unified only in their tribal bonds and their willingness to fight for their place in both life and afterlife, their unit types are quite diverse in terms of equipment and perks, and you'll see in a future dev blog. So we'll have to wait until next week, maybe to get a glimpse of what they look like. I mean, I'm sure they'll look like this, using these banners, wearing this, and wielding these. But I'm hoping that we'll get to see the different tiers that they come in. And, you know, if I'm using my imagination correctly, I think it'll be very similar to what I described in terms of their similarities potentially to the greenskins. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this short video and my breakdown and my opinions on the upcoming Warriors of the North DLC. I look forward to next week when I can go over part 2 and we get our first glimpse of the new major enemy coming towards us. I am excited. I really can't wait. I'm nearing the end of my current Battle Brothers playthrough, and I really want to start another playthrough. I honestly can't wait. Just look at all this content. I don't know what the price of this will be yet, but in my mind, just the company origins by themselves are more than worth the price, and it's going to add so much replayability to the game. And every enemy, every set of weapon, this adds so much to the game, and I'm stoked. I love Battle Brothers, guys. So that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Once again, my name is Brett, and my YouTube channel is Good Talk Gaming. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. That helps me out a ton. Like the video if you did enjoy it. And let me know in the comment sections if you have some opinions on this type of stuff, or what you think, or what kind of enemies you'd like to see. But I wasn't really considering, I'm kind of a little after the credits aside here, but I wasn't really considering what type of unique abilities they would have in battle. But the idea of them using adrenaline plus overwhelm, and to also perhaps not really caring about uh, morale penalties as much as other races do, plus this whole getting hurt, like this is going to be a very unique enemy, not just a raider reskin, and certainly not just an orc reskin, perhaps somewhere in the middle. Between fighting raiders and orcs. It's going to be a whole new experience and going to bring a lot of flavor to the north. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.